Well, guys, where do we go from here? The Raptors have lost Game 2 against the Philadelphia 76ers, 97-112. You're watching Raptors Today. I'm Savanna Hamilton alongside Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Amy Audibert will be joining us in a little bit. Now, there's so much to break down within the first two games that we've already seen. Let's go player by player, starting with the Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey.
He's been terrific, and this is something that we talked about, you know, as an X factor, as a guy who could really change the tenor of the series. And I give the young man a lot of credit. He knows that Joel Embiid and James Harden are the two guys that butter the bread in Philadelphia, and he's okay with the crumbs, and they're going to be big crumbs. And you think about it, the Raptors have centered their focus on Embiid and Harden, and Maxey has had room to roam. He's been, from a mental standpoint, he knew that was going to be the case. And he was prepared, and he took every advantage of his opportunity. 38 in the first game, 23 in the second, and he's playing to his strength. It's not like he's out of character and doing things that he's not capable of doing. You watch him pushing the ball in transition. He's using his speed and getting to the rim for easy shots. He's using that same ability to free himself and take shots that he's worked on in practice with escape dribbles and crossover steps and step backs. So I give the young man a lot of credit, and I give Doc Rivers some credit too for putting him, knowing that he's going to be in that position to have a chance to impact the series, and giving him the confidence and the freedom to say, go ahead, young man, it's time to dance, the lights are on.
Absolutely. When we are so focused on Joel Embiid and James Harden, there's Tyrese Maxey just making the most out of his opportunity to get the kickouts, to be that spark for the 76ers that maybe the Raptors didn't quite see coming to this extent, at least. But what do you make of Embiid's performance? Because he's just been drawing every foul and getting kind of everything he wants.
Yeah, but just to tie on to what Jonesy was saying, we're talking about Tyrese Maxey creating tempo for the Philadelphia 76ers as well. His transition game has been off the chart.
Yeah.
But when you talk about Joel Embiid, we all know, we feel he's going to be the MVP this season. Having said that, Joel Embiid has done a great job in terms of being physical, taking the fight to Toronto, getting in the middle, creating space, and getting to the free throw line. He's one of the best in the league at doing that. 14 free throw attempts in Game 2 against the Raptors. The issue is he makes his free throws too. He went 12 of 14. But his physicality, his size, his ability to get mobile in the block, and when he gets big down there, he gets really big. It forces the Raptors to collapse, and they just don't have that general size to deal with him right now. So his ability to create and draw fouls have been consistent, and the Raptors really wanted to get physical with him and ensure that he didn't have those free walks to the basket. Well, Joel Embiid took the fight to the Raptors again and said, you can be as physical as you want. I get to the free throw line, I make free throws, and that's what I do. And I think right now the Raptors are struggling with figuring out how to get him out the spots because when he's getting down low position, they're not moving him. And then when he's down there, the discipline it takes to physically not reach and not bow your hands and get those foul calls, that's where it becomes an issue because he can score so efficiently around the basket.
He's going to the offensive glass too, Sherman.
Yeah,
that's the thing that people, he's not just hanging out waiting for the ball. He's actively seeking it out.
He's getting his own rebounds. But we got to talk a little bit about James Harden because he's not really standing out like maybe that we thought he would in this series, at least yet. Knock on wood, knock on glass right here. But, tell me a little bit about his impact because he's still showing up on the board. He's still making something of an impact, and you still can't leave him quite open.
It's one of those cases, Savannah, where he's putting up good numbers. As you said, you look at it, he's not having this massive, overt impact on the game, but he is getting to the free throw line. He is assisting, making other guys better and making passes and moving the ball. And he's not necessarily getting those high impact assists where he drives into the lane and he's dropping it off for a dunk or kicking it to a guy who's open in the corner. Sometimes he's just facilitating the offense and getting the assist. Ball swings to him, swings it to the next open guy who's shot ready, and he knocks it down. So James Harden has had an impact, but he hasn't really had the overt wow factor that we've seen from James Harden in the past. And if you're Toronto, that's a little bit dangerous because you have other guys to look after. You're doing a decent job on Harden. He's still hurting you. He's not necessarily killing you, but you never want that Pandora's box to get open, and now he starts pulling out all the tricks.
Well, we don't want that Pandora's box to be opened already because Joel Embiid has his own going on. But now we're going to hear from Raptors head coach Nick Nurse.
I thought, we weren't getting many stops in the first half, right? They were really, again, just, we had a couple of really good possessions where they made some tough threes at the end of them. They had one where they got a kick out off of offensive rebound, another one, Tobias Harris totally covered in the corner. And then we went through just a little bit of a spell of, I thought Pascal had about 3 great looks right at the rim. They all rolled off. Fred had kind of back-to-back threes, and we didn't make any of those. And all of a sudden, our opportunity to kind of stay right there with them, and it's not good to trade baskets, but we sure could have there to keep it a little bit closer there in the first half. But still, I thought our guys were better physically tonight. I thought our guys were giving great effort, and certainly not easy. And Gary, give him credit again, but he had nothing. Probably should have held him out. But he went out there and he tried, and obviously it's hard enough, right? But it's getting just a little harder. We got to hope these guys can get healthy by Game 3. A little bit. I think that again we got to stop in the initial possession. The next possession we got to stop, but they got an offensive rebound, kick out 3. The next possession, Danny Green hit a corner 3. Mistake by us. That one wasn't a good possession. Then the next possession was a really good possession, and Harris hit that tough corner 3. And that was too bad because I thought schematically we were good on all those possessions but one. That they made better offense than just a shade better than our defense was. Again, we did draw a couple charges. We absolutely. On the challenge. I don't see how that's not a charge. They see it live and it looks like a charge. Look at it on the film, it looks like a charge. So I thought that was a missed one. There was another open-handed slap to the face that, again, I don't understand why they will not call them. But other than that, at least there wasn't as many elbows thrown to the face tonight that we had to endure.
Now the Raptors are back in Toronto with the fan base. They're going to be cheering them on, off the court, of course. But on the court, we got to talk about some adjustments that the Raptors can be making on Wednesday as well as Saturday. So, Sherm, I'll start with you. What do you want to see the Raptors adjust?
Well, Nick Nurse is great at making adjustments. And I think when you talk about how they've lost to the Philadelphia 76ers in the first 2 games, we're talking about Philadelphia really utilizing some of the Raptors' strengths against them. Philadelphia's got out in transition. They've scored 51 points in 2 games in transition. Well, that's usually a strength of the Raptors. The Raptors usually turn teams over. Philadelphia's taking care of the basketball. So now you're in a situation where I feel creating tempo is really of the utmost importance. The Raptors have to be able to create tempo. How do you do that? We've seen in the past Nick Nurse has thrown full court presses out there to speed the tempo up and maybe even to slow things down sometimes, but also on the glass, the Raptors have struggled. Philadelphia's beaten them up on the glass, and for the Raptors, one way you can protect that is by getting into that zone and have more of an inside rebounding position when those shots go up. It's not a clear be-all and do-all in terms of solving the issue. You've got to stay in there and find a body and put a body on somebody. But when you're in that zone, you have the ability to stay more compact. If you don't get broken down, if you're not forced into rotation, that zone can help you. And I think just to change the tempo of the game, maybe those are some of the things that the Raptors can look at. I know Philadelphia has made 30 of 62 three-point shots, but at the end of the day, what Philadelphia is doing looks way too comfortable.
Yes.
And I think you've got to switch that flow and switch that rhythm up.
Get them out of their rhythm. But Jonesy, what do you see out there as well?
Well, it's funny, Sherm used a couple of words, the one word, it's comfort. And this game, in terms of defense, is about taking away time and taking away space. And the Raptors have been really good at that all season. They're not doing it right now. To Sherm's point about tempo, I'm focusing on the defensive transition. You heard Nick Nurse in the past talk about the different phases of transition defense. You got to sprint back. You got to communicate while you're on your way back. You have to identify where players are, who's stopping the ball, who's moving the people. And I don't see the Raptors doing that consistently. look, when you score, you can throw a press on. They've got to take the ball out of the net. But when you miss a shot, the first 2 or 3 steps in transition to get back, and then you start talking. It's not happening. We talked earlier about Tyrese Maxey. I can't tell you how many times I have memories in this series of him taking a medium range or long range rebound and suddenly sprinting up the court. He's quick enough to stop on his own. And when he's got a 2 or 3 on 1 or a 4 on 2 broken floor, with guys like Danny Green running the wing, Tobias Harris running the spots, that's going to be tough to stop. So the Raptors need to do a better job of that. Hey, that foul that I hate, that take foul to stop the transition, maybe you throw a couple of those in so you can set up your defense 5-on-5. But they've got to do something to change the comfort level of the 76ers.
Absolutely. I really appreciated the way that the Raptors came out in Game 2. Off the jump, I felt like they were much more composed in comparison to Game 1. They threw the first punch. They were initiating the physicality with Embiid right away. And so I really appreciated how they did that, but then they kind of fell off about 5 minutes into it, and then we saw the shift of momentum then take the 76ers by storm, essentially, and Embiid found his rhythm. Tyrese Maxey was like, oh yeah, remember this? Remember Game 1? I could do it again. So the Raptors, as you guys said, they have to make Philadelphia uncomfortable and kind of play with that composure to carry on through the series. But now we're going to hear from the team themselves.
Yeah, I probably got to watch the tape back a little bit, but I thought we got off to a good start. Hit a little dry spot there. And we never really slowed them down. They went 32 and then 35 in the second. So, it was kind of uphill from there. But it's not just him. We got to just try to get a better job of guarding everybody, get a hold of them. They just kind of dictated the game in terms of physicality and flow and momentum regardless. So, the first quarter was kind of a shootout back and forth, and then we lost the rest of the shootouts the rest of the way. So we're going to have to find a way to get our defense into the game until we start, making some shots. I mean, we never quit. That's one thing about this team all season. We never quit. We're pretty good in the face of adversity. We responded to challenges throughout the year, and you gotta love the fight and the effort from guys. So as long as there's time on the clock, we're gonna continue to fight and scrap. And you saw that there. OG got hot. Chris had a good showing there late. So we'll try to build on that going forward as we get ready to go home. I thought we just fought a little bit harder. I thought we brought the right level of effort and intensity for the most part. And we didn't play a full 48 of it, but we started the game off the right way. We're continuing to find good shots. We're creating good shots. Our defense our transition. I don't know what they had in fast break. They still beat us in the fast break game, but seemed to be a little bit better, getting back and getting set. So again, a little better, not good enough. Again, at this point of the season, you got to be playing at a really high level to keep winning and beating some of these teams, and that's what it takes in the playoffs. So we'll see if we can ramp it up a little bit more and clean up. We got to play a little smarter. We played hard enough, I think, in a lot of areas, but got to play harder still and play way smarter.
No, I think some of the things that they did well in the first game, we did better. I think we did better taking those away. Obviously, the score doesn't look like that, and it's tough when you're down that much. But I thought that we adjusted a little bit. We played with a little bit more physicality. We did some good things. It wasn't enough. I think that we gotta go back to the drawing boards and continue to adjust. And I think that we got to continue to give ourselves a chance to win, and if we improve from this game, I think that we're gonna have a good chance.
I think we force more turnovers. We try to be more physical, trying to box out more, just to rebound and run. So I think we did a good job doing that.
How much of a lift can going back to Toronto be for you guys?
I think it'd be good for us, just playing in front of a home crowd, just like they played at home. Come out with energy, and we have a great home court advantage, so use that to our advantage.
We're now going to head over to Amy Audibert.
Thanks so much, Savannah. Let's take a quick look and recap of the first round on the East side, and let's start with Chicago and Milwaukee. This was the series where a lot of people, I think, chose Milwaukee to get through it pretty quickly. And the first round games or the first game ones, it was one of the close ones. Milwaukee won, but only by 7. And for Chicago, DeMar DeRozan had a solid game, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. He only shot 6 for 25 from the field. So he's going to have to put up big numbers for the Bulls to really find success. Nikola Vucevic, also a monster game with 24 points and 17 rebounds. But for Milwaukee, the reigning champs, Giannis leading the way, 27 points, 16 rebounds, shooting right around 53% from the field, but he's got all his guys rolling with him. Drew Holiday had a great game. Brooke Lopez, big man, 18 points, 5 rebounds. And one of the keys, I think, here, Chris Middleton, he had 11 points, 5 rebounds, decent game, but he only shot 1 for 7 from the 3. So I imagine them going to him pretty early and often through this series to try to find his rhythm. Let's jump down to South Beach and check out the Atlanta Hawks. They opened game 2 against the Miami Heat. In game 1, well, this is the game plan. Trae Young was held to 8 points for the Hawks, and they're not going to win too many games when that happens. He went 1 for 12 from the field. 6 of his 8 points were from the free throw line, 0 for 7 from the 3. Now, I imagine that Trae is going to have a 40-point game. He's going to have to for the Hawks to compete and win. But for Miami, we know what Kyle Lowry does this time of the season. He was pretty solid with his 10 points, 9 assists. Jimmy Butler, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 for 15 from the field. I think the X factor for the Heat is Duncan Robinson, and he was a star, 27 points. He's one of the better shooters in the league. He's been pretty streaky this season. So if he catches and stays in fire, well, he caught it. 9 for 10 from the field, 8 for 9 from the 3. They're going to be a hard stop between him and Tyler Hero, the front runner for 6th man of the year, both coming off the bench. What a well-rounded Miami Heat team. And for the fun one, as I think we all thought it would, but game 1 lived up to all those expectations. Brooklyn drops the game by 1 point at the buzzer. The Nets led by Kyrie Irving, 39 points, just got fined $50K for some crowd profanity that he provided, but wow, does he thrive in those types of territories. Kevin Durant, 23 points. Don't get mad to all the Raptor fans out there, but Goran Dragic was pretty big for the Nets in his 27 minutes off the bench. He had 14 points and 5 rebounds. A key for them, Patty Mills, 1 for 1 from the 3, but you got to get him some looks. He's a great shooter. The Boston Celtics in the last possession of the game played it perfectly. Unfortunately for Brooklyn, 2 guys ran out of a shooter and took themselves out of the play, and the back 3 defenders had their head turned ball watching, and Jason Tatum moved without the ball in your hands, caught a body, beautiful spin, finish at the buzzer. It was the perfect way to end game 1 on your home court. For Boston, 98 of their 115 points were scored by their starting 5. So we can have a conversation about their depth as these playoffs unfold, but for game 1, they were spectacular.
Now, sure, we haven't talked a little bit about OG Anunoby because he's back from injury. What are you making from his performance?
I really like what I've seen from OG Anunoby. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's missed some time and trying to get ready right before the playoffs. Didn't have many regular season games to get his rhythm, but he's hit the ground running in the playoffs. He's doing a great job shooting the basketball, shooting around 65% from the floor, averaging 23 points. So it's unfortunate that this is happening in losing situations, and the first game was a big loss, but you just think about OG's ability when Pascal was healthy, when Fred is healthy, Gary Trent Jr. He's been a guy that's provided consistency in that 3rd or 4th spot as a scorer. And he's kind of gone under the radar when he's done it. Again, in this series, we're seeing OG play some pretty good basketball. And Sav, you talked about the tone being set in that first quarter. I thought OG's physicality in the first quarter was a part of that while he was scoring the basketball. So it's good to see OG bounce back the way he's playing. And you expect him to be a factor on both sides of the basketball, and we're seeing him do that. Now the Raptors have to figure out how to get a W while he's doing that.
Absolutely. I know OG's one of those players all season, kind of been flying under the radar when he was available and healthy, but he's always been a solid contributor. Yeah. But it's great to see him keep that consistency in these playoffs because we know the Raptors definitely need a guy that's going to be legit and give them a solid bucket when they need it as well. But we do have to talk about a spark that's been off the bench, Chris Boucher. He's also been pretty consistent all season with that as well, but especially in game 2 that we saw with Philadelphia.
As much as the Raptor bench was maligned at times for their lack of production, it wasn't without a lack of effort. I mean, you look at Chris Boucher, he's been great again. There's something about Chris's perceptiveness and awareness and his energy that all blends together. How many times have we seen him tipping in missed shots or rebounding the toughest shot that there is, the air ball, and putting it back up and in. You know, when Gary Trent Jr., Thad Young, Scotty Barnes are out, there's a stat that says Chris Boucher, when he plays about 30 minutes, is going to give you a double-double of 17 and 10. Well, you look at game 2, 17 and 8 in about the 30 minutes. It was a big part of that comeback in the fourth quarter. And Chris is a guy that plays with that consistent energy and is always trying to make and making winning plays. So to Sherm's point, what he talked about earlier, there's lots of pieces that are working for the Raptors. It's a matter of putting those pieces together, the right framing, the right time for them, and keeping it going over a longer period of the game. And I think Chris Boucher is a real key, especially if you don't have people, your regulars in your lineup.
Exactly. And, we have to talk about Tobias Harris as well, obviously in the 76ers. We've mentioned Tyrese Maxey, Embiid, Harden, all those names, but he's been really solid, Sherm.
Yeah, he's been more than solid. Shad, when you talk about him offensively, he's been great. And this was one of the concerns going into this series. If Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris start to be those guys, then Joel Embiid and James Harden can really ease off the gas a little bit. But there's no question, Tobias Harris has been phenomenal, shooting 64% from the floor and 75% from the three-point line. And he's made 3 threes in both games. So he's getting it going offensively. He's getting the looks that he's used to getting. He's a physical player, a guy who can bang down low a bit. He's getting out in transition, but he's spreading the floor. And this is the issue. Now when you're focused on Joel Embiid and James Harden and Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey get it going, now you got to expand it. And this is where the Raptors are really going to have to make a decision. You let James Harden and you let Joel Embiid get their numbers and shut everybody else down? Or are you going to let those other guys try to beat you and try and close down the 2 main guys? Decisions have to be made because Tobias and Tyrese have made a real issue in terms of the decision-making for the Raptors defensively.
The decision-making also hinges on the resources, Sherm, as we said, right? There's guys down, and maybe you're trying to plug holes, and you don't have enough hands.
That's very true. That's very true. But I know if you're James Harden, you're not exactly mad that you got young bucks taking a bit of the load off as well, especially when these playoffs, they're long and they're hard. So you can catch the next game Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Sportsnet. Listen to it on TSN. From myself, Savanna Hamilton, Paul Jones, Sherman Hamilton, Amy Audibert, Jake, Evan, and Armando, thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.